What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the Red Tide Politics channel, and I'm here with Sammy Talks Politics. Say hello.
Hello.
Okay, so what we're going to be doing today is possible paths for victory for Trump and Biden. So a lot of people have not done this. I think it's a very interesting thing to do. But let's get started. Okay, so let me just start by filling in the safe states that really won't swing each way. And then basically we'll get down to the battleground. So that's what I'll do. I will not fill in the battleground states, which will be Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. I'm not considering North Carolina. Um, and yeah, so let me fill in both of them. So let me. And by the way, I'm just going to be doing the second color. I'm not going to really doing margins just because there's no really need to. It's just showing off the path to victory. Okay, so let me fill in. By the way, I do not think North Carolina is safe. I just want to point that out. I do not think North Carolina is safe. I'm putting it in as a one of the just because. Okay.
Red Tie, could
Yeah.
you share your screen so I can see what you're
Oh
talking
yeah,
about?
yeah, yeah, sure. Okay.
All right, cool.
Um. Okay. There you go. Okay. Cool. Okay. So now let me fill in the rest. Yeah. Okay. So I do we really want to consider Minnesota or no?
Um, uh, Probably not, no.
Probably not. Okay. Okay, so this is what I have. Trump at 235, Biden at 225. So, let me say this right now. I do not think Biden's going to win Georgia. So really, I'm gonna put that in that second color just because it's gonna be a little difficult for Biden to win Georgia. Just because it was by the slimmest of margins in 2020. I think you can agree with that statement, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So then so really the one path to victory I'm saying for Biden is in the Rust Belt. So let's say Biden takes the Rust Belt and he takes Nebraska second, he wins. So really that is Biden's like one of I'm going to say 3 or 4 path to victory. Really one of them are more challenging, but let me do the Trump path to victory. So Trump gets Georgia, Nevada, and Wisconsin along with Arizona. He wins. So this one is a very interesting path just because Arizona is one of these states that I think is a little bit overhyped for Trump. I think you can agree with that, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Just because Maricopa is shifting to the left and Trump needs to win the state if he's gonna win it by like 4, which people are saying, he would have to win Maricopa. So we can take out Arizona from that. Really, I would really consider it a more battleground state for Biden more than Trump, but really it can go either way. Um, but then what we're gonna do is we're gonna show off maybe the second path to victory for Trump. So we're not gonna do Georgia this time. What we're gonna do, actually we will. You know what? We're gonna do Georgia, Pennsylvania. It already does it, which is one of the easier paths to victory for Trump. The issue with the reelection of Biden is that just because Trump has a long stronghold in a lot of these states from polls, and really I'm not going off the polls just for this election. I'm going off of the approval rating and signs of party distress. That's what I'm going off of. So really, you can consider a lot of these seats maybe a Trump stronghold, but really I wouldn't. Just because I'm not going off the polls because they're really inaccurate. They were inaccurate in 2020. They're going to be inaccurate this time. Not by as much, but it's going to be inaccurate. I think you can agree with that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Um, so really, that is the second path to victory for Trump. Sammy, do you want to conduct the third path?
Um, yeah, so I think Trump's third path would probably just be by taking Georgia
Okay.
and then also some combination of states in the Rust Belt.
Okay.
Um, so it could be Wisconsin,
Oh, Wisconsin.
and
Okay.
then um, maybe he could take um, Arizona or something,
Okay.
or because those were the three closest Biden states in 2020.
Yeah.
Um, or it could be just Wisconsin and Michigan, or Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, because I think Georgia is probably the Biden state that is most likely to flip to Trump.
Yeah.
So with Georgia and Wisconsin, all he needs is one more swing state that isn't Nevada, and he could take the election.
Yeah. Really, I think it's. I think Trump is giving it more handed to him than Biden. Biden has to somewhat work in these Rust Belt states because right now Trump's up in Pennsylvania by quite a bit. The last poll from Bloomberg Morning Consult had Trump up by 7 in the state. I do not think he's up by that whatsoever. I think it's going to be one of the closest states of the election. I think you agree with that. I think people are overhyping Pennsylvania and really all
Oh
the
yeah.
Rust Belt states, especially Michigan. Michigan is going to be one of the closer ones of the night.
Mhm.
Um, but really, I do not think Trump's up by 7 in the state. He's probably up by half a point or so, really.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, really, we can agree to disagree with this, but I don't think Biden wins really Georgia or Nevada, just because those really like it didn't shift in 2020 when it was a good Biden year or a good Democrat year in general. So really, if it's gonna be a good Trump year, I would say it shifts towards Trump. So really, I want to see that's a lock. I wouldn't say really if there's polls that come out that has Biden up by a considerable margin, I will change that gladly. Really, the ones that are up for grabs at this point is 55 electoral votes, which is the Rust Belt states and Arizona. So really, one of the paths but for Biden's victories, Arizona, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. That is one of Biden's paths. Okay, really, Biden doesn't really need Wisconsin, but it would be nice. But he could also take, like, then again, he could take the Rust Belt. But really, what he could do is he has to do Wisconsin, Michigan, and Arizona. So here's the issue. He needs Pennsylvania because you see, even with these 3 states, he doesn't get it. So you would have to pick off Georgia, which is going to be very difficult, just because Georgia is probably going to shift towards Trump. Just because you're going to have those rural counties around Atlanta, there's a lot of black vote that is going to shift towards Trump, just because Biden is not doing as well with the black voters this year. It's just going to be a little more difficult. So he would need like a Pennsylvania, for example. He would need a like, for example, he can win the election with these. Well, no, not really. He would need Nevada. He would need
Mhm.
Nevada to do it. Really, realistically, he has 2 to 3 paths to victory. Trump, he can get a combination of Georgia, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, Wisconsin, Georgia, Michigan. Well, hold on, let me check this. Georgia, Michigan, Nevada. Yeah, so really he has a little bit more paths. He has a little more wiggle room. Um, I don't know. I mean, Sammy, what do you think? Is there any other paths that you would say Biden can be considered for?
Not really. I feel like Biden just Pennsylvania is an absolute must-win state in basically like 80 to 90% of all the pathways I can see him winning. They involve Pennsylvania in some sort. He could try and pull something with the Sun Belt where Trump focuses on more likely D states like Virginia, Minnesota, and New Jersey, and instead he tries to like, I don't know, go for North Carolina and Georgia or something. But
Yeah,
come on, like, it's so unlikely that that would happen.
yeah,
Even if the Biden campaign is trying for it, I think he needs Pennsylvania, or he would need to like sweep every other swing state.
yeah. Like, listen, if Trump takes Nevada and Arizona, where he's right now strongest in the polls, uh, with the exception of Pennsylvania, Biden would need to take all the Rust Belt states if he wants to win. So let's say, like, that is probably the most likely path to victory, but it will be the most tough one for Biden because he would need all the Rust Belt states. Because I know Trump is polling pretty well in Pennsylvania, and we take that away, he can't have a path to victory. He would need to pick off either, he would have to really take off Arizona, Nevada, and Georgia, which Georgia is very unlikely. So really, it's going to be a little difficult for the Biden campaign. Listen, I think if there's a surge in activity in, let's say, for Georgia, for example, or some state, I would maybe consider Biden taking Georgia, but that isn't a best case scenario, and that's just going to be a little difficult. Now, one path that people are talking about is Texas. That state is
Oh, geez.
drifting to the left. So, actually, if we go to Jackson Jude, we go to Texas, You can see that by margins, it was 5.6 in 2020. It was 9 in basically 2016, so it shifted half. So really, that is not really that good. That is not good. So really, one of the paths, which is the one I don't condone, Biden takes Texas.
And he still needs one more state.
He would still need one more. So you guys see what I mean. It's gonna be a little difficult. And by the way, I do not condone blue Texas. I don't think in probably another year, an election cycle, that's gonna happen. But I think you guys see what I mean. I mean, it's gonna be a little difficult for the Biden campaign, but definitely it can happen. It can happen. He would take the Rust Belt and he wins, and he also needs Nebraska second. But here's the issue: if Trump takes Nebraska second by a small margin, Biden takes the Rust Belt, it would be a tie because Trump takes the Sun Belt in this case scenario.
Which means Trump wins.
Which, if it goes to the Senate, and right now they're likely to take the Senate, and Trump wins. So really, he would need Nebraska second. That is a key for Biden. Really, right now, at this moment, this is what I would consider as a battleground state. Georgia, I'm finicky about just because that one is most likely to flip in my case. Just because in the best case scenario, it is going to be the closest state. It will not be a Biden 0.21. It's probably going to be a Trump 0.0 or a Biden 0.0 something. It's going to be the closest state if it's a Biden best case scenario. Really. I mean, you're going to have Biden doing really, really well with the black voters at that point. But yeah, Sammy, what do you think? I mean, do you think Biden really has a chance in any of these, really white suburban, border states, or like in North Carolina, for example?
I mean, you can see the Biden campaign trying to make an effort in somewhere like North Carolina to try and offset maybe a loss in the black vote and compensating for maybe losing in Georgia. However, I just don't see this as happening, honestly. It hasn't gone blue since 2008. And while I see states like North Carolina, Arizona, Georgia, Texas all shifting to the left, North Carolina to a lesser extent, I just think overall, this election season is going to be more to the right than in 2020. So I think it shifting to the right is going to compensate and maybe even overcompensate for those states shifting to the left. So a state like Georgia, a state like North Carolina, especially a state like Texas, I think are probably going to go to Trump. I think Arizona is the most interesting case because you've got a very moderate state which has a lot of suburbs, a lot of independents, and Trump is an election denier. I think Biden could do very well there. I don't know if he could win, especially because it's a border state. There's a lot of Latinos, and Biden's not doing very well there. However, I think it could play a crucial part in his path to reelection. It could make up for him possibly losing Wisconsin or something like that. I think his most likely path to victory is Arizona, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. It would just get him over 270, and it would be him taking advantage of a state like Pennsylvania, where it's his home state, and possibly his appeal with these white working class voters. A state like Arizona, where it's a lot of moderates who might not necessarily approve of Trump, and a state like Michigan, which in terms of swing states isn't really that. It's like the reverse North Carolina, where most of the time it would probably vote blue. It would take like
Yeah.
a red splash for it to go red, like what we saw in 2016.
Yeah. Like, really, if Biden wants to pick off, like, a state like North Carolina, he would need a lot of work. Like you said, the last time we went blue was 2008. And that was a very good year for Democrats. And then again, in 2012, it flipped back very easily for Romney.
Mm-hmm.
So, really, it would take a lot of work for a compensation loss in Georgia. Like, for example, like, if Biden wins North Carolina, he would need a Pennsylvania or a Arizona. Like, really, he can win that way, but that is probably a very unlikely case scenario. Just because I think North Carolina's going to shift right. Just because you're going to have a lot of counties around cities like Raleigh, Greensboro, a lot of these cities, which are a lot of heavy black voters. they're probably going to shift to the right. So,
Yeah.
and here's the issue with Trump. The suburban areas, they're going to be 50-50. Some parts are going to shift to the right, some parts are going to shift to the left. Really, it's going to be probably one of these states, like North Carolina, Georgia, Pennsylvania, that are going to be probably one of the more interesting ones of the night, just because you have a lot of black people there. Like, you have a lot of black people around the Atlanta area, around the Savannah area. You have a lot of people around the Raleigh, Greensboro area, around this area of North Carolina, around the center. You have a lot of black voters around Philly, Pittsburgh, Scranton area, where Biden's from and where he used to be. That's why it's called Scranton Joe. You have a lot of black voters in Detroit, Michigan, around the area. Really, Biden would need to do well. And the issue with Biden with the black voters, he's losing support. So really, Biden would need a lot of work in these areas for him to win it. I don't know. I think this is very interesting. Do you have any final words, Sammy, about this?
Yeah, I think the main election is just going to be kind of how it was in 2020, where, before 2020 and as well as 2016, it was expected that, Democrats would win the election because of minorities. And while I think that's partially true, and it can largely be because of minority turnout, what actually gave Biden the election in 2020 was his work with suburbanites in like suburban Atlanta, suburban Philly, suburban places like that. And he could do similarly in 2024, but I think he's going to lose a lot of that minority vote that, we saw him not do as well as expected in like 2020. And I think that could seriously cost him the election in states which rely on minorities like North Carolina, like Georgia.
Yeah. And also, one thing before I end the video is Biden did a lot of work with women voters. Biden won really in Michigan and Georgia because of women voters. A lot of women shifted to the left. Really, that's what it decided the election as well, along with minority voters. I think you can agree with that, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna end the video here. Again, go subscribe to Sammy Talks Politics. He makes a lot of great videos for people who are more moderate voters, who really enjoy maybe seeing a different side of things from a lot of these Republican voters or Republican side of politics. If you want to go see some of that, he makes really great videos. Go ahead and go subscribe to him. Let me know if you guys want to see more of these collabs, like I did one with Maryland Predictions YT the other day. It was a very fun video. Again, go subscribe to Sammy Talks Politics. Comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.